Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Let's start with some family dynamics. I, 34 male, grew up in a very typical household. Mom, 60 female. Dad, who passed away 10 years ago, and my younger sister, 32 female. I thought for most of my childhood that we had a pretty normal family life. My sister and I were close enough growing up, and while we had our squabbles as kids do, nothing seemed overly abnormal. But as I grew older, I started noticing something strange about the way my mom treated my sister versus how she treated me. My sister, let's call her Samantha, was always the focus of attention. If she was sick, the world had to stop. If she had an event or activity, everything revolved around her. It wasn't blatant at first, but as I entered my teenage years, I began to feel like an afterthought. Whenever I needed something, a ride, help with homework, advice about life, my mom always seemed too busy or preoccupied. However, if Samantha needed anything, she would drop everything and attend to her needs. This only intensified as we became adults. I started to realize that Samantha could do no wrong in my mom's eyes, while I was always being reminded of my responsibilities or shortcomings. But it was never something I wanted to dwell on. After all, families are complicated, right? Fast forward to 3 years ago. I'd been working hard for years, saving money, building my career, and generally just trying to get my life together. I had finally reached a point where I could seriously consider buying my first home. I wasn't looking for anything extravagant, just a modest house where I could start building equity and stop throwing money away on rent. I was super excited and had even begun house hunting. I mentioned this to my mom during one of our bi-weekly phone calls. The conversation went something like this. Me: Mom, I've been looking at houses and I think I'm ready to make the move. It's time I finally bought a place. Mom: Oh, well, that's great, I suppose. But have you thought about Samantha? Me: What do you mean? Mom: Well, she's been having such a hard time lately. She just went through that breakup with her boyfriend, and she's feeling really down. If you bought a house right now, she might feel bad. It could make her feel like a failure since she's still living in an apartment. I was absolutely floored. Here I was, ready to make a significant step in my life, and instead of congratulations or support, my mom was more concerned about my sister's feelings. Samantha had indeed gone through a rough breakup, but that was no reason for me to put my life on hold, right? Me: Mom, I'm sorry Samantha is going through a rough time, but I can't put my life on pause because of that. Mom: I know, but you're her big brother. She looks up to you. I just think it would be really hard for her to see you moving forward while she's still struggling. You know how sensitive she is. Maybe you should wait a bit. Against my better judgment, and partly because I was still influenced by wanting my mom's approval, I actually listened to her. I postponed the house search, telling myself it would be only for a little while, maybe until Samantha got back on her feet. Weeks turned into months, and before I knew it, the market prices had skyrocketed. The houses I had been looking at were no longer affordable. I had missed my window. Over the next year or so, I watched as Samantha continued to be the center of attention. She eventually got back with her ex-boyfriend, moved in with him, and seemed to be doing fine. Meanwhile, I was stuck in my rented apartment, and every time I looked at housing prices, I felt a pang of regret. I knew I could have been a homeowner by now if it hadn't been for my mom's advice. Around that time, I started pulling back from my relationship with my mom. I didn't want to confront her directly, but I was becoming increasingly resentful of how everything always revolved around Samantha's needs and feelings. I still loved my sister, and this wasn't her fault, but it became clear that my mom had always seen her as the priority, and I was just there. About 6 months ago, my mom's health began to decline. She's been struggling with some chronic issues, and it's reached a point where she's no longer able to fully care for herself. She's not at the point where she needs full-time professional care, but she definitely needs help with daily activities: cooking, cleaning, appointments, that sort of thing. Samantha and her boyfriend? Well, they live a few hours away and have made it clear that they aren't in a place to help. So guess who my mom turned to? That's right, me. A few weeks ago, My mom called me and, in a very matter-of-fact tone, told me that she would be moving in with me for a while. No discussion, no request, just an assumption that I would take her in and care for her. After all, that's what family does, right? Here's the kicker. I'm still renting. I never got the house I wanted because of her advice to put my life on hold for Samantha. Now, she expects me to take her in my small rented apartment, without even acknowledging the sacrifice I made years ago. It's like she's completely oblivious to the fact her meddling prevented me from being in a better position to help her now. I told her I needed time to think about it, but in truth, I'm leaning towards saying no. I've given up enough of my life and my dreams because of her favoritism towards Samantha. I feel like if I take her in now, I'll be sacrificing my peace of mind and my independence for someone who never truly valued me as much as my sister. When I told my mom I wasn't sure if I could take her in, she was shocked and hurt. She couldn't believe I would even consider saying no. She gave me a whole guilt trip about how she's always been there for me, which is debatable, and how it's my responsibility as her son to care for her in her time of need. She even tried to pull the Samantha card again, saying that it would be too hard for Samantha to care for her because she has her own life and relationship to manage. Meanwhile, I'm single and child-free, so according to my mom, I have no excuse. I've tried to explain to her how her actions in the past made me feel, and how I've always felt like the second choice in her eyes. She brushed it off as me being overly sensitive, and told me that family is family, and we need to stick together. But where was this attitude when I was trying to buy a house and start my life? Where was this family is family mentality when everything revolved around Samantha, and I was expected to just quietly support from the sidelines? I spoke to Samantha about this, hoping she might help or at least offer some support. Her response? "Mom's done so much for you. You really should take her in. I can't because insert list of reasons here. But you're in a better position to help." It was almost like she had rehearsed it with my mom. It felt like deja vu from the house situation all over again. My life being put on hold because of family expectations. I'm at my wit's end here. I don't want to take my mom in, especially after everything that's happened. But I feel like I'm being painted as the ungrateful, selfish child for even considering saying no. I've spent so much of my life bending to accommodate my mom's preferences and Samantha's needs that I barely recognize myself anymore. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my mom in after she deterred me from buying a house so my sister wouldn't feel hurt? OP's mom has clearly played favorites OP's entire life, and now she's reaping what she's sown. The fact that she doesn't even acknowledge the sacrifice OP made by putting his house plans on hold is really telling. It's all about Samantha, and now that she's not available, she's turning to OP. OP deserves to live his life for himself, not always in the shadow of his sister. OP should not feel guilty for setting boundaries, especially when they've been blurred for so long. Family might be important, but OP is not a doormat. But on the other side, OP should not have listened to his mother and bought the house. So he's an a-hole here for not buying it and listening to his mom. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Your mother literally sabotaged your future financial stability for the sake of your sister's feelings. That's messed up. You could have been a homeowner by now, and instead, you're being expected to shoulder the burden once again because your sister is too busy living her life. You're not responsible for your mom's decisions or her health issues. If Samantha is the golden child, then maybe she needs to figure out a way to help more, instead of dumping it all on you. Stay firm, and don't let guilt eat you alive. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I'm furious on your behalf. Your mom has shown a clear pattern of putting Samantha's needs above yours for years, and now she's guilting you into taking care of her. This isn't about who's able to help more. This is about her taking you for granted and assuming you'll step up because you always have. If she wanted to be close to her kids, she should have treated you more equally. If Samantha's life is so perfect now, she can afford to help. Stand your ground, OP. You've sacrificed enough. My issue is a little complicated, so this is a long post. My eldest brother is getting married to Amy, 30s. Amy and Brandon's relationship sort of blossomed out of nowhere, and they moved quickly. Amy didn't get nearly any time spent with my family before she and Brandon became engaged, and she started aggressively planning the wedding. Amy's a bridezilla. Example, Amy wanted me to be a bridesmaid, and I declined. because she asked me the first time I had ever met her. I wasn't comfortable being a bridesmaid because I literally didn't know anything about her and didn't even recognize her or her name. Amy was mad, but then decided to invite me to every wedding party-only event. I didn't attend because of work and not being in the wedding party. Amy then decided she wanted me to get ordained and marry her and my brother. I declined again. Amy grew increasingly hostile. I've known Amy for less than a year. I'm a career-driven, happily single, child-free 30-year-old woman. I've got a beautiful house, great friends, and an advanced degree. I'm independent and love life. Amy doesn't agree with my lifestyle. She told me that she was concerned that I was filled with self-loathing, secretly depressed, and insecure, and she wanted to help. I had a laugh and ignored the message. I've never been a fan of monogamous relationships, and I'm happy having a casual, basically friends with benefits, boyfriend and girlfriend simultaneously, most of the time. Amy thinks I'm a disgusting sinner who is going to burn in hell, and that I only act this way to validate my insecurities. But she knows that there is hope for me, and I don't need to burn eternally. I gave the old "somebody's gotta keep it hot" line, and went back to enjoying family time and ignoring her judgment. I don't parade my kink life around, but I don't hide anything from my family. No, they don't know all of my kinks, but I'm more than happy to have a laugh with my mother and sisters about a funny event at a dungeon, etc. I don't joke openly for the whole family to hear at events, and mostly we joke through group texts or group calls. I should mention that my sisters are nothing like me. My 3 older sisters are gorgeous, have unused degrees, and have all married well. It's not uncommon for my sisters to have horrible problems, such as the new diamond ring my husband bought me is so big that it scratched the hell out of my new luxury car door around the handle. I think I should just get a new car. Yes, this is their real life. My mother's on marriage 6 and exactly the same. My sisters all volunteer and sit on charity boards, but have never had any actual paid job before. I love them, but I'm not one of them. I got my first job at 13 and honestly enjoyed working. Amy doesn't have a problem with any of them and believes that they are the best sort of people. As I've been primarily single, my best friend since childhood, Georgie, 31 female, has always been my +1. Georgie is a member of my family. She goes on family vacations and even uses the holiday houses without the family on occasion. Georgie comes to every family event and holiday, is included in group messages and jokes, and often spends time with my mother, sisters, or shopping with them, going to the salon, drinking, or just round for dinner. She is for all intents and purposes a non-biological family member and has been for over 20 years. Amy has decided that she hates Georgie with a passion. I think the hatred developed after I repeatedly failed to respond to the aggression Amy directed towards me. Amy lists the following reasons as to why Georgie is a disgusting excuse for a human being. My family attended Georgie's grandmother's funeral. When my mother walked up to the casket to pay her respects, Georgie gave the casket a hard shake. Hard enough, in fact, that her grandmother's head sort of bounced, flopped about. Georgie immediately had an "oh duck" look on her face, and it was obvious she was wondering why the hell she did that. In true Georgie fashion, she tried to ease the tension in the now entirely silent staring room. She said loudly and awkwardly, "Well, we had to know, didn't we? And yes, that head flop cements the issue. She's dead. Yes, good and dead." Georgie said this all in a William Shatner-esque fashion that was amazingly awkward. Georgie and I made eye contact and then lost it laughing. Georgie stood by the casket laughing hard enough she began to snort, bent over with laughter, jerked up in surprise at her snort, and knocked a flower arrangement onto the casket on her grandmother's head. We had to be led out of the funeral to compose ourselves. It was horrible. My family jokes about Georgie, the infamous casket shaker. Amy thinks this event was disgusting. I won't lie, I have no idea why Georgie shook the damn casket, and neither does she. Georgie had both of our families over to hers to finally revel that she was a lesbian. It wasn't a surprise. Georgie had been dating women for ages, but not everyone knew, and we mostly felt like we were in the mood for a good party. I helped plan the evening. Georgie hid in the closet. I served up fish tacos, and once everyone arrived, Georgie burst out of the closet yelling, "I'm coming out," as I played Diana Ross's "I'm Coming Out," and danced off to the side. We thought it was good fun, and the families had a laugh. Amy thought Georgie was tactless and disgusting, but said it had nothing to do with her orientation. I explained the closet and tacos were my idea, but Amy said Georgie was to blame for the debauchery. Georgie, my sisters, and my brothers have a book that I made. It's entitled Find Uncle Georgie. Georgie accidentally referred to herself as uncle at one of my sister's ultrasounds that revealed the gender of the baby, and my 13 nieces and nephews have giggled and referred to her as uncle ever since. I photoshopped a creeper mustache and goatee on Georgie, and then hid her in various pictures of our families. My nieces and nephews think the book is hilarious and love playing Where's Waldo, but instead, it's Where's Creeper Uncle Georgie. Amy had a tantrum about the book that I misunderstood. I thought she felt left out, so I shopped a photo of Amy and Brandon to add to the books. The only photo I had was their engagement photo, so that's what I used. Amy lost it. She said that some people can't handle lesbians, and that Georgie was causing her trauma. I joked and asked if she had been attacked by a roaming horde of lily lickers, and Georgie added that lesbos do become particularly aggressive during mating season, so she understood the fear. But Amy needn't worry, because Georgie wasn't currently rutting. Amy demanded my family intervene at this point, because she was fearful. So that's where we are. I'm not particularly interested in playing nice with Amy. I know mine and Georgie's sense of humor isn't for everyone, but I couldn't care less what Amy says because the woman is a bigot. I get the feeling that she's jealous of the bond that my family, particularly myself and my mother, share with Georgie. Amy sent me text that she, Amy, is my sister now, and that I needed to put family first and limit Georgie's interactions with myself and my family. Amy said that she wanted to feel like part of the family, and Georgie was making that impossible for her. Georgie and Amy have had nearly no interaction, and Georgie avoids talking about Amy to anyone because she has no interest in the drama. I told Amy she wasn't my sister, but Georgie was, and that I have always and will always put family first. That's always included Georgie and always will. I told her Georgie is my plus one, and if she wasn't comfortable with her at the wedding, she shouldn't be comfortable with me there either. Amy has been hysterical ever since, and keeps trying to get my family to back her. My family point blank stands by Georgie, and doesn't indulge Amy's hysterical behavior. Amy then gave away a ridiculously sentimental family heirloom that was given to Brandon. Amy said she did this because the family didn't treat her and Brandon like family, so they shouldn't care if they have family heirlooms. Amy says that it is Georgie's fault that the heirloom is gone, and that my family needs to realize how detrimental of an impact Georgie is having on our lives. My family essentially said, "Duck you, the horse you rode in on, and your wedding." Amy now won't leave Georgie and I alone. Block her number, and she uses another. Text messages come in at 2:30 a.m. that switch between bigoted hateful vitriol and pleading guilt trips. Brandon has remained entirely silent throughout. Besides once agreeing that Georgie was trying to split him and Amy up, Brandon could not explain how or why this was the case. Amy somehow contacted Georgie's partner to tell her that Georgie was in love with me and Brandon. That's obviously not the case, and being bi doesn't mean that I cannot have platonic friends. Amy says it's biologically impossible to be friends with someone you feel desire towards. I am no more attracted to Georgie than I am to any other of my sisters, for duck's sake. Georgie sent my mother and sisters a group text and said that she was sorry to disappoint, but she couldn't be attracted to me because my boobs were too damn big and she just wouldn't know what to do with herself. As always, Amy was offended. Yes, this was a little crass of Georgie, but she was pretty annoyed at this point. Amy is crazy. I don't think there's much else to the issue, but I don't know how to make the issue subside. We have done what we can to not be part of her life, and I'm torn between a loss of respect for Brandon and concern about his fiance's erratic behavior. I don't understand Amy's hatred of Georgie. I feel like I'm the cause of that hatred, but I don't really understand why. So what do? I'll continue limiting contact. I hate to press charges for harassment or obtain a protection order, and I hope this settles down before that becomes necessary. I feel like my jokes have caused a lot of the issues. I could try to stop joking around as much, but I immaturely want to say, to hell with that. I'm a happy person who laughs way too hard at her own jokes, and my sisters and mother are the same. I don't think we should have to change to accommodate crazy. Is this too immature? Should I attempt to modify my behavior and ask Georgie to step back on the joking as well? Am I a bad sister for not caring in the least that I'm losing my relationship with Brandon by choosing Georgie? Regardless of all else, I will not be ashamed of who I am. My lifestyle doesn't hurt anyone. I have never understood orientation. I have always been attracted to people that I like. That person's gender has as much influence on my attraction to that person as their hair color does. I've never been able to understand why I wouldn't be attracted to someone because she happens to be a woman. I try to remember that other people truly aren't attracted to the same S, and for some reason, that makes me the oddball. I don't want to play the victim card, but I cannot help but feel like Amy's issue is my open bisexuality, and Georgie's homo. I wasn't raised in a family that cared about things like that, and have always said to hell with people who do. I don't know if I'm reacting offensively because of my lack of understanding, but I don't think it should matter. I intentionally don't associate with people who believe they can judge who I have S with, so I don't know if Amy's reactions are typical of the conservative religious type in the adult world. Obviously, things were different in school. Edit to this mess. I sent this post to my sisters. They said I'm way off, and Amy wants Brandon to believe that it's impossible for a respectable wife to work. Evidently, Amy uses mine and Georgie's degenerate lifestyle as an example of what she will be exposed to if she keeps working after the wedding. I have no clue. She may have a lot more issues than I knew. Amy is crazy and hateful, but I can't help thinking that based on the mental picture I get from your description of Georgie, I'm not sure if I'd be Georgie's biggest fan either. If I were in Amy's position, since I'm personally not crazy and hateful, I might seek opportunities to spend time with your family when Georgie wasn't around, and avoid some events where Georgie might be there. I also might fear that Georgie might pull some crazy stunt at my wedding. But there's no excuse for Amy to be harassing you with hateful messages. Rather than hoping for it to just go away, I might recommend telling Amy you'll take legal action if she doesn't stop. Amy grew increasingly hostile. I've known Amy for less than a year. But you've known your brother your entire life. Being involved in your brother's wedding, whether you are close to his fiancé or not, is pretty normal. It seems like she tried to get to know you. You shot her down at every turn, and now she feels like his family hates her. Then you share your 3-bulleted story. What a doozy. What Georgie did was incredibly disrespectful. Whether you and your family thought it was funny and, oh, that's just Georgie. That's an incredibly awkward and disrespectful thing to do at a funeral. Based on number 1, Georgie probably was being tactless. Then, considering Amy's background, you did nothing to ease her into things, but just laid it on heavy. You snub your soon-to-be sister-in-law in favor of a non-family friend in a photo album. And then, when your soon-to-be sister-in-law confides in you that, based on her background, lesbians freak her out, instead of taking her seriously, you bust out a ooga-booga scary lesbian mating season and have a joke at her expense. It's no wonder she hates you and your friend. In every instant she reaches out to you, you turn her away. You know she has a conservative background and is freaked out by lesbians in your lifestyle. And yet, rather than do anything to ease her into accepting it, or even try to reach out to her, you instead choose to make light of it in front of everyone and intentionally try to shock her with excessive exposure and ill-thought, insensitive jokes, simultaneously embarrassing her in front of her soon-to-be family, pushing her away, and clearly trying to further to piss her off and fuel her distaste for both you and Georgie. You're trying to make her hate you, and you are succeeding. It sounds like you need to grow up a little for a 30-year-old. But they're religious isn't a blank check to be an instigating a-hole. She's marrying your brother, and you're going to have to learn to live with that and start acting like an adult. The casket thing was absolutely tasteless and disgusting. Those two sound like the pair from Absolutely Fabulous. This is the behavior you would expect from a drunk 14-year-old teenager, for God's sake. Something about this post is a bit off. I seriously doubt a whole family would see this behavior as normal or funny, or even excusable, and then make jokes of the casket shaker as a family story. I am not saying Amy's behavior is right in the slightest, but again, I doubt we are having an accurate statement here. Me and my fiancé split up in January and had been struggling for almost 2 years prior, and the relationship was pretty much dead for the past year. She gave the ring back to me during the split. It wasn't a bad breakup, we just realized we were becoming toxic towards each other. I've known Mary for over a year now, and she's the closest person I have to a best friend. We met at work, so we see each other 5 days a week and hang out 1 or 2 times a month on the weekend. I've recently developed feelings for her, and we've talked about it, and just decided to be as good of friends as we can for now. Our relationship has always been financially mutual. We're always getting stuff for each other. She's not a thief, and I'm not here to get affirmation in calling her so. On to the meat of it. I left the ring out on the TV stand in plain sight. No box or anything. So it's not like it had to be searched for. I had a small get-together with us and 2 others. We drank and played some games, and drank some more. Never got blackout drunk, but maybe close at some points throughout the night. So everyone's judgment and memory got hazy at some point. I'm not sure how or when she got the ring. I'd imagine she saw it and put it on when she was drunk and forgot she was wearing it. I didn't notice it was missing till yesterday, and then when I got to work, I noticed she was still wearing it. I feel if she stole it, she wouldn't be wearing it around me. I don't know how to approach the situation, and didn't address it at all yesterday. I feel if I ask her about it, I'll sound accusational. How would you like to be confronted if you were in her shoes? Could there be a bigger reason for her having the ring in the first place? Getting drunk and putting it on, understandable. Being sober and wearing it to work days later, not understandable. Like, as soon as you sober it up, it's pretty easy to know that you're wearing a ring that isn't yours. Maybe just be like, hey, I was cleaning up my house the day after the party, and I can't find X's ring. I had it sitting on the table. Can you come help me look for it? You don't accuse her of anything, and gives her a chance to find the ring and return it to you while saving face.